when we started this crazy idea of a podcast, this was the movie. This movie right here was the movie we wanted to watch.
It's like a feature-length version of an Adult Swim sketch.
Why is there a watermelon there?
Jeff Goldblum is dressed up as a cowboy, and he meets up with Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers outside of the jail. These guys are rock stars on a tour bus, but at the same time, they're almost like CIA government officials keeping tabs on mysterious threats for the world, for the country. We don't know what to think with these guys. These guys can do it all.
Buckaroo, President's on line 1 calling about is everything okay with the alien spacecraft from Planet 10, or should we just go ahead and destroy Russia?
Tell him yes on 1 and no on 2.
Which was yes, destroy Russia or number 2?
Everybody knows Buckaroo Banzai, and he is on a mission to save reality.
Thermal pod on our tail. Over.
Oh, so you want to play game?
I'll see you in hell!
It's Buckaroo Banzai! What's poppin', Colonels? It's Just Play It. The boys are back. We're back in town. We are here. We're going crazy. We have a very chaotic episode for you because we got a full popcorn buckaroo of some bonsai bonkers madness. And we're going to take you on this 8th dimensional journey via a rocket truck and just mind-bending stuff. We're going to rock your faces off, and it's going to be insane. And we hope you join us for the ride. I'm Colonel Pop. I'm Captain Crunch. I am Jimmy Crack Corn. My name is James. And alongside me is my best friend. It's Mr. Nicholas Justice.
Thank you for the introduction, my friend. I am Nick. I am known around here as the Chief Corn Dog. And I was thinking to myself today, where does the corn stop and the dog begin? I'll tell you where it begins. It begins right here, right now on the Just Play It podcast, battered, fried, and coming at you. It's your boy, Nick and James. Just Play It. I'm so excited to be here, buddy. And I'm so excited for the movie we're watching this week.
I'm excited. You're excited. We hope you're all excited. And we hope you are enjoying this episode. And if y'all want more, please follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're at Just Play It Podcast. We're on X. We're trying to be modern and cool and call it X, but I think people still call it Twitter. We're on Twitter at Just Play It Pod.
If you want to see the great video quality that James produces, we have a new full-length video up on YouTube for Black Moon Rising. Go look at it. Go look at all the stuff that we're doing, all the stuff we're pumping out. We're trying to give you the best content out here. We're trying to go through these movies, and we appreciate you following along with us.
We are here. We got a good one for you, and this is the first bombastic review of the year. If you're new to the channel, if you need a refresher, bombastic reviews, we're reviewing movies that had quite a big budget and the box office return just failed. More specifically, it lost out on 60% of its budget. The fun part about this type of review is that we have one of us by the end of this thing guess what the budget was and also take a stab of how much money they think it got in return. On this bombastic review, we have the corn dog himself making a good educated guess. So Nick and listeners at home, I challenge you to pay attention to these details, pay attention to who made this movie, and maybe by the end of it, you can try to take a stab at the budget alongside Nicholas DeGicolis and how much it got at the box office.
This is going to be a fun one, but I can't wait. I'm really excited for this one.
The only clues you have is the ratio. Only made 40% of its budget maximum, and it could definitely go downhill from there.
Oof.
Anywhere from 0 to 40.
Oof. See, this is interesting. Well, before we talk about the movie and what we chose, James, I think we have to warm up, right? We have a new tradition here on this podcast.
Oh yeah, new tradition. We need to get loose. We got to warm up. It's quiz time, and we invite you guys to play along. What we do here now on Just Play a Podcast, we do the Cinematrix quiz, brought to you by Vulture.com.
Talk to me.
We have a 3x3 grid of categories and actors, and we need to give movie guesses of what can connect one category or an actor and tie it together with another category or an actor. And we cannot use the same movie twice on a guess. We have 9 squares. We have 9 guesses only. And the more obscure our guesses are, the higher points we're going to get. And we invite you to play along with us. Audience, are you ready? Of course you are. Nick, are you ready?
I love stuff like this, so let's get it on.
Let's go. Okay, so along the top row, we have release date 2000 to 2009, Rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and begins with a vowel. So confidence level, Nick, confidence level. Where are you at with those categories?
So far, we'll see. We'll see. It may take
good.
me a minute or two, but I feel
I
all
feel
right.
pretty good. I mean, 2000,
Yeah.
2009, that's our generation.
That's my
Rotten
bread and
Tomatoes.
butter.
We reference Rotten Tomatoes on this podcast when we go over the reviews of our movies. So I feel like we would recognize some green splats, and begins with a vowel, self-explanatory. And I think I got this. Now it depends on who the actors are, Nick. Who are our actors for this week's quiz?
Our actors this week are Kate Hudson, Drew Barrymore, and Michael Douglas.
Okay. All right. Michael Douglas, friend of the show. However, the other two, I don't think we've seen a movie with those two gals.
Not
yet.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Not
Confidence
that I'm aware
level
of.
on this set of actors.
I feel okay. I actually do.
Okay.
I've seen some bad movies, and these are 3 actors I feel like have been in some bad movies, and I'm aware of it.
I might be leaning on you for that. I feel like I can do release dates. I feel like I can do titles that begin with a vowel. And I feel like we're ready to start this quiz.
Let's start with Michael Douglas. He's probably the actor I know the most.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to save him for last? Or do you want to try and start out on heaters?
I want to start out hot.
Because we try to go perfect. We only went perfect once, and that was last time. We were top 10%.
Yes.
And I don't think I want to, but I'm not confident that we're going to go 9 for 9, but we're going to try. So let's start Michael Douglas, and let's start with begins with a vowel, because I know one right off the bat.
I have one. I think you might know the same one.
Audience at home, you might know the same one too. I'm thinking of the movie Ant-Man, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man Quantumania, any of the Ant-Mans.
I believe Avengers Endgame as well.
That'd be one that people wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
Okay, let's guess.
5%. That's a great start. That's a hot start. The Rotten is the one that's going to kill me. All right, James, for Michael Douglas, do you have anything for 2000 to 2009? I have one, but I think that one would also be Rotten. So I want to see if you have anything.
Okay. Well, which category do you want to commit to?
So I have one for 2000 to 2009, and that was You, Me, and Dupree.
Okay, so that was also Kate Hudson?
Was it?
Yeah.
I have one for Kate Hudson for that time period.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking Rotten.
I have a couple for 2000 to 2009's Kate Hudson. One might be Rotten. I don't know. But the release date one also begins with a vowel. Oh, shit. I just can't think of anything else for Michael Douglas 2000 to 2009. I feel like that was a career lull for him. Let's do Kate Hudson then. Let's do Kate Hudson. Let's attack the Kate Hudson line.
Okay, so we're going for Kate Hudson, Rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Our best guess is You, Me, and Dupree.
We could save that for Michael Douglas because I remember a movie that Kate Hudson did with Matthew McConaughey called Fool's Gold.
Oh yeah, that was her. Okay, I was trying to think of that Matthew McConaughey movie, and I thought, was that Sahara?
No, because that's Penelope Cruz, I believe.
Yeah. Oh yes, Fool's Gold, baby.
That has to be Rotten, right? That has to be Rotten.
100%.
There's no way
Fool's Gold. Kate Hudson,
not
Rotten Tomatoes, Rotten. I'm going for it.
Hey.
Let's go, baby. 28%.
Do you want to finish knocking out Kate Hudson? Because I think I have the rest of her figured out here.
Yeah. Pick your box, man.
Let's go Kate Hudson 2000 to 2009.
Are we you, me, and Dupree in it?
No, I'd like to save that for Michael Douglas because I have a couple more.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Nick's pulling out some tricks.
Yeah, I have a very obscure movie. It might not be obscure for the females out there, but I once dated a gal who loved this movie. It was with her and Anne Hathaway, called Bride Wars.
Never heard of that.
It's not a movie for men like us, but I have seen it.
Never heard of that.
And it is Kate Hudson and it is Anne Hathaway. And I believe
we're going 2000 to 2009 on this one.
Yes, I believe they're friends who schedule their weddings for the same day. And it's this
sounds kind of familiar. And this is in that Fool's Gold era of just
this is
shit.
Exactly the Fool's Gold era. Came out when we were in high school, so I remember this one because a girl I dated in high school, I went to go see this in theaters with.
We graduated in 2009, so we know it can't be beyond that. So,
yep,
I'm ready. Let's guess.
Let's do it.
My guy is pulling out the stops on this one. Bride Wars. Look at that. That looks like a movie my wife would love.
She would.
And she probably knows this movie.
Especially since you and I got married within a month of each other. There may have been some thoughts to Bride Wars. Like, really, your best friend's getting married within a month of us?
Luckily, it was just 1 month removed, not on the same day.
No, that would have been...
Groom Wars. We should make the reboot.
Yeah, the reboot.
The male version that nobody asked for.
So Kate Hudson, beginning with a vowel, I believe this is one of her most famous movies. Do you know which one I'm going to say here?
I feel like Kate Hudson is an actor I know, but I don't know her movies that well unless it's Fool's Gold or You, Me, and Dupree.
So this is going to be a young Kate Hudson. And the one, I guarantee you this is going to be the most common answer, but I have Almost Famous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's on the poster.
Yeah, it's the best guess I have for it. I can't think of any other Kate Hudson vowel.
That's it, man. We're going Almost Famous, and I'm guessing now. Oh my God, 93%.
93%.
Yeah.
You had to be a big Kate Hudson fan to not get that one. I honestly don't have another one.
Okay. All right. Wow. Well, we cleaned house with Kate Hudson. Do you want to move on down to Michael Douglas? Do you want to go for a Rotten with You, Me, and Dupree? I'm assuming he played a dad or something in that movie.
I just don't know if we want to use that for the 2000 to 2009 or the Rotten.
Oh. Well, we know he was in Romancing the Stone, and I don't remember that getting a Rotten score.
Neither do I.
Michael Douglas, 2000 to 2009. What the heck were you doing?
Don't remember what he was in.
A whole decade of work, and we can't think of one movie?
I feel like this just wasn't his time. Actors and actresses, they go through their post Big Bang, and then they have a hard time accepting they're the dad or they're the older guy in a film.
Yeah.
You're not the leading man anymore.
Oh, was Ant-Man Quantumania Rotten?
Oh, that is a good call. It probably was. I mean, every review I saw,
I don't know,
was pretty darn rotten.
But I feel like we can just try it because we can't think of anything else.
Okay. I like that. So let's go. Let's hit our square here. Let's hit Michael Douglas, release date 2000 to 2009.
You want to go for the sure thing and so that we feel better about ourselves?
I do. I think that's the best way to go with it.
Okay.
And let's do You, Me, and Dupree.
I have it queued up.
Let's do it.
6%.
That is shocking to me. That people know, because I can't think of anything else for him. I guess this wasn't my prime movie watching era, but holy smokes.
Movies that Michael Douglas was appearing in this era of his career.
So do we want to do Quantumania for Rotten?
I mean, I can't think of anything that is horrendous and has Michael Douglas in it.
Neither can I. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for Michael Douglas, rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, is our best guess here.
I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll hit guess at the same time. Count it down.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go!
It's rotten.
Let's go!
It is rotten.
Yes! Oh, we could go perfect here. Drew Barrymore,
have the chance.
wild card. Let's go.
So we have Drew Barrymore. All three categories are 2000 to 2009 release date, rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and a movie that begins with a vowel. I have 2. It's the rotten that's going to get me.
Let's focus on rotten and Drew
Okay.
Barrymore. I was going to say perhaps 50 First Dates. I can see that not jiving with critics for whatever reason.
So I have plenty of release date 2000 to 2009 for Drew. Charlie's Angels?
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels.
Could that be a
absolutely.
rotten? One of the Charlie's Angels?
I don't know, but I think they made a number 2. And I believe if they made a sequel to Charlie's
Full
Angels,
Throttle, right?
yes, I believe that one probably has a better chance of being rotten.
Oh, man.
Sequels have a really hard time getting fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I feel like Full Throttle is a pretty good guess, and I'm willing to commit to that for Drew Barrymore X rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, if you are.
I am 100% committed to this.
Let's guess. Let's go, baby. Lucy
We
Liu,
got
my
it.
girl. Let's go.
So does that mean we've locked in 50 First Dates for Drew Barrymore release date?
That was 2000s, right?
Absolutely, yes. 100%.
What was your other 2000s?
It was going to be Charlie's Angels, the first one.
Let's go 50 First Dates. That was probably like 2001 or something, right?
Yeah,
Was that late 90s?
No. That was strictly in the 2000s.
Let's go for 50 First Dates on Drew Barrymore X 2000-2009. All right, 41%. Okay, Nick, if you have a movie that has Drew Barrymore in it and it starts with a vowel, we can go perfect here.
I absolutely do. And it's
Let's
a
go.
terrible movie. It's really bad. It is a movie my mother loves. And I mean loves. And we had it on VHS and it got watched a lot. It is Ever After, A Cinderella Story.
Wow. That sounds familiar. Where the hell is it? Ever After?
I'm not seeing it here. Ever After might be one word.
Oh, there's Ever After one word, and that's it. But the after is also capitalized.
That might be it. I mean, Ever After is a movie. It's with Drew Barrymore. I've seen it 100 times. I'm letting you know right now. Ever After is a movie with Drew Barrymore in it. So I hope this is the right one that we're clicking on.
It better be. And I'm clicking on it now. Let's go. Whoa. Nick, we got top 8%. That's a PR for the Just Play It boys.
Sure is.
I feel like this was a really good team effort. I feel like you were definitely 60 to my 40.
I believe so as well.
Maybe even 70 to my 30. That was clean, dog. Nice job.
Yeah, felt good about that one.
You're a good resource to have because your dad watches a bunch of movies. You know about all these obscure movies,
I've just
especially
seen
in that era. Yeah. Let's see what the most popular answers were. So Kate Hudson, release date, most popular was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
checks out.
Fool's Gold for Rotten. So we're right in line with the masses there. In addition to Almost Famous. I'm surprised that we have another 2 that were in the most popular and we were in the top 8%. 50 First Dates and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. People were going on the sequel train there.
Yeah, we didn't outsmart the masses.
Oh, duh. E.T. for Drew Barrymore. Forget she was a
Starting
literal
with a
child.
vowel, E.T.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow.
Traffic for Michael Douglas 2000s release date. Okay.
Wow. Okay. We got you, me, and Dupree. That tells the audience where we're at.
Yeah, we're at You, Me, and Dupree. I think that was the first movie I saw in the new Century Theaters that was constructed downtown. And I
Oh,
thought this is
really?
a horrible inaugural movie to watch.
Ooh,
Quantumania was the most popular for Rotten and Michael Douglas, and the most popular for starts with a Val Michael Douglas was Ant-Man. We went big brain and went Endgame. That could have been the difference maker of getting us in the top 8%, top score 2,448. No idea what the score entails, but we know movies. We're 9 for 9. We're perfect.
we're better than you.
And guess what? We're here to talk about a movie. Nick, the movie we are reviewing, watched, bomb box office guessing this week is a whole entire mouthful. It is The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension from 1984. Can you even deal with it?
I can't. So this got put onto our radar by you. Looked at the IMDb. I mean, talk about a star-studded cast from the 80s and a movie
Cast
that I've
is
never heard
stacked.
of. I'd never heard of this. So I was very surprised, especially knowing, my dad, the king of cheesy 80 movies. I thought this would have crossed my desk at some point. But that is not the case.
It is a wild ride.
And taking us on that adventure, our director for this is W.D. Richter. W.D. Richter, looking through his credits here, he was very big 80s, 90s. So Big Trouble in Little China, Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the late 70s, and wrote one of my least favorite movies of all time in 2005, a movie we have reviewed on this podcast, Stealth.
Flabbergasted.
Shocked and upset.
When you start watching all these movies and reviewing them, you're gonna realize it's a small world after all. I'm shooketh. The director of Buckaroo Banzai wrote Stealth, the forgettable 2005 sci-fi action AI fighter jet movie with Josh Lucas, Jamie Foxx, and Jessica Biel. What the hell? What are we doing here?
I do want to call out our musical lead. Our composer here is Michael Boedicker. Now, this isn't
Boedicker.
very noticeable, but something I do want to call out, because this is 1984, is I got to looking into this guy, and he is a musician, and he's actually played on a lot of famous people's records. Quincy Jones, Randy Newman, Barbra Streisand, Olivia Newton-John, Michael Jackson, Barry Manilow. I mean, just the list goes on. Lionel Richie, I believe. Now, his instrument of choice that he is credited for is the synthesizer.
No way.
So, if you want to know what to be expecting in this 1984 movie, you guessed it. Our music by our composer is a synthesizer legend.
So we be synthin'.
So just get ready for the cheese, my friend.
We are locked into the 80s. We are not escaping. This is the culmination, the crown jewel. This is the 1980s in a nutshell, if I can say so myself. And leading the helm on this 80s joyride is our actors, our stat cast we were bragging about. We'll shout out the top ones here. Peter Weller, better known as RoboCop. We got John Lithgow, better known as our fan casting for Fresno Bob, if they ever were to cast Fresno Bob from Escape from New York and Escape from LA lore. Ellen Barkin, and I'm gonna throw Jeff Goldblum at the top there. He's a pretty featured character.
You have to.
It's not even the half of it. We'll hit these guys as we cross their paths.
It's nonstop.
But that's who's in this movie. We're not going over the budget and the box office because we're guessing that. Nick is guessing that. And I think we need to just get into it so that we can guess that, so we can start this crazy ride. I'm going to read this log line, and then we're going to jump into this movie.
Let's do it.
Adventurer, brain surgeon, rock musician, Buckaroo Banzai, and his crime-fighting team, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, must stop evil alien invaders from the 8th dimension who are planning to conquer Earth. Holy smoke. So I'm thinking of our other log lines that we've gone over, and we always say, yep, pretty straightforward. Yep, to the point. Yep, that's about it. This is not even the 2% of it.
No.
This is that gives you a whole crazy introduction of what to expect, but it lives up to the hype. Let me just say that. And we're going to get into that hype.
Buckle up.
Jumping into
Buckaroos.
PT. It's plot talk. Plot talk. We open up on a Just Play It favorite, instructions. Kind of giving me a faux Star Wars crawl, because we have paragraphs of instructions on this movie. The screen is black, the font is yellow, so I'm thinking, all right, kind of emulating some Star Wars energy here. I see. Essentially, it says Buckaroo Banzai. He is half American, half Japanese, although Peter Weller is super white.
And that never comes up at any point in time.
No. Do you want woke shame them right now? Do you want to shake them? Do you want to shoke them? Should we have a term for that? Woke shaming? Like woke. Should we shoke them out?
You could shoke them out, sure.
Should we shoke them out in the beginning? Okay, so woke shaming. Yeah, Peter Weller, super white guy. Buckaroo Banzai is apparently half Japanese, half American. They call him half American, so that's kind of racist, because Americans can be anything, but they're just assuming it's a white American. Nick, you and I went to Japan in 2016. How many white people do we encounter that were locals?
Gosh, I can't. 0. I think it was 0.
Yeah. So a little bit of a weird, I mean, not really weird for the time. It just happens. They just kind of throw the white guy up in front of the camera. They're not really focused. They're not worried about that stuff right now. We're going to get into some racial topics in this movie, oddly enough. And that's going to be wild.
The most weird way.
I don't know if this movie's racist, but that's our Shokum segment. It's too wild to really get bogged down in it, but I'm just going to throw that out there.
You can't get bogged down in anything in this movie. That's what I've learned.
I think they just threw out the fact that he was quote unquote half American, half Japanese, so his name could be Buckaroo and Banzai, because Buckaroo means cowboy and Banzai, Japanese word. I think they just wanted a hilarious name, and the title itself just drops a hint of how much comedy is going to be laid out in this movie in plain sight and sprinkled within.
My wife watched the beginning of this movie. She read the instructions with me and just said, nope, not for me. Whatever this crawl is.
My wife did the exact same.
Whatever this crawl is not what I'm about.
She's done that with a couple movies. She did that with Black Moon Rising most recently. Cruel, I remember, was a big one. 2 minutes in, she said,
I had that happen with Cruel.
Yeah, Cruel. She's like, I'm not cruel. I'm not crueling out with you guys. Sorry. This one is crazy. So yeah, Buckaroo Banzai, he is a neurosurgeon, and in the instructions it says he got bored with that. He started dabbling in particle physics, in rock and roll, in martial arts. He's basically the most interesting man in the world. And not only is he the most interesting man in the world, he's surrounded by the most interesting men in the world, with the Hong Kong Cavaliers, who are comprised of very intelligent scientists who are also, coincidentally, part of his rock and roll band. They have a tour bus. They have comic book strips. They are celebrities.
This crew here is Perfect Tommy, Reno, Nevada, and Rawhide.
Led by Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, Rawhide played by Clancy Brown, friend of the show.
Yep, via Flubber.
Our whole opening segment here is really just letting us know how badass Buckaroo Banzai is. So he is performing a surgery with fellow surgeon Jeff Goldblum here, who is referred to as New Jersey, I believe, the rest of the movie.
His name's Sydney something, but everybody has to have a cool nickname.
So he's doing surgery. While this is happening, they're preparing a rocket car. He's also, later on, we find out, a rock star, and then a ninja, maybe, because before he sets his land speed record deal, he puts a headband on and ties it like a samurai headband.
I think that was the showcase that he was Japanese.
It's the only time it comes up.
Yeah.
So basically, we get to find out, like you said, James, he is the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah.
And this opening scene just really reinforces that. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody thinks to themselves, nobody else could do this except for Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah. So he's in surgery with Jeff Goldblum, and we're cutting to this land speed thing. So it seemed like from what I witnessed, it seemed like there was this whole dedicated 100-person crew maybe, trying to set a land speed record. But Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers had a secret agenda, and their secret agenda was to bust into a different dimension because everybody else seemed like they didn't know what was going on. So I have questions about that. That could be my first question about this movie, but I have questions about it.
Buckaroo built something called the overthruster that he puts into the rocket car, and that's what takes him over the top to pass through physical matter. This is his secret weapon, and so he slips that in before they take off for this, what I thought to be a land speed record.
Who were these people? Was this Team Banzai, and he didn't tell his own people? Only the super secret crew knew the intel of what was really going down.
Well, James, this is going to be
This is,
I'm not sure. There is something
this is
called
going to be a ride.
There's something called the Buckaroo Institute or the Banzai Institute. So he has his own major research lab where he just has free reign to do anything. Even the president just lets him do whatever he wants because he's Buckaroo Banzai.
He's
allowed
he's
to
like
do
Jack
anything.
Bauer from 24. The president has his cell phone number and just hits up Jack Bauer and says, "Can you do this for me?" Same phenomenon here. President hits up Buckaroo Banzai and says, "What's going on with this 8th dimension jargon, Buckaroo?"
Except it goes the other way. Buckaroo calls the president and says, "Hey, I'm doing this." The president says, "You got it, Buckaroo."
It's going
I believe
down.
this jet car is just a Bronco. Doesn't look very aerodynamic.
It's some sort of Ford truck.
Yeah.
Nick, I think at a certain point, aerodynamics do not matter if you have rockets strapped to the car. Honestly, at that point, I feel like you just need a heavy enough car with big tires to get the power traction to the ground. Like many things in this movie, everything is an interesting choice. Everything pops out at you. Your question, before you even have time to process a question you have from seeing something on screen, you got 3 new things coming at you, and you don't know what to think.
That's what Buckaroo Banzai gives you.
You really do need to buckle up, Buckaroo, because this movie starts out wild, starts out hot. We're at the land speed record trial, and Buckaroo darts the Ford Bronco rocket truck to the left, and nobody knows what's going on. They're saying he's lost control, he's off course. Not Rawhide. Rawhide saw that coming. Perfect Tommy saw that coming. Reno saw that coming. Everybody saw that coming. That's in the Illuminati Buckaroo Banzai crew.
In the crew.
So Buckaroo Banzai, he has the overthruster, like you said. There's a laser that's mounted on top of the car. It opens this portal into a rock wall. And then we kind of get this low budget Doctor Strange multiverse dimension hopping montage. And we're seeing like these weird aliens come in and out of frame, and they look very humanoid. And we're thinking, okay, what the hell is going on? Buckaroo Banzai ends up going through this mountain, and the research team, the land speed record team, I'm hoping that our Black Moon Rising crew is part of this team.
Should be.
And maybe that's where they got their start. But they say, oh, he's on the other side of the mountain. What the heck? He went through. The rocket truck is slowing down. It's been through the 8th dimension, so it's breaking down. Buckaroo Banzai gets out of the truck. He checks underneath the undercarriage, and he finds this. It looked like a ball of teeth that looked like a slimy brain. It was kind of funky looking.
Definitely alien.
We're seeing some alien organic matter here.
Yeah, my first thought here, knowing the title, saying the 8th dimension, I go, okay, we ripped a hole in reality that we shouldn't have ripped open.
Kind of like Stranger Things. We opened the gate and weird shit's coming out.
Exactly. But it was a success. Buckaroo's happy. His crew is happy. And now we're going to go meet another character.
You know who's not happy?
Our next character. Dr. Emilio Lizardo. Now, Dr. Emilio Lizardo is John Lithgow's character, and he's in a mental institution, and he's just an insane person. We're going to find out why he's an insane person. He tried to pull the same stunt that Buckaroo just pulled, except he did it recklessly and like an insane person. He was working with Dr. Hikita, who is now part of the Buckaroo crew.
Buckaroo crew?
Dr. Lizardo is in this lab, this really makeshift warehouse. He goes, "Are we ready?"
This is through a flashback sequence.
Yeah. Back in 1938, I believe.
When does this take place?
I believe this should take place in present day when it released. So 80s, early 80s.
So just doing the math here, 46 years and he looks the same.
Don't ask questions, James.
It's okay.
So Lizardo gets on this track and he tries to replicate this. He tries to go through solid matter. The whole team around him's like, whoa, 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 don't start yet. We're not ready.
It's Nikita. He's like, yo, this is a high-tech operation. This took probably years of trying to get the formula down, the theory down, and you're going gung-ho on this 1930s jalopy vehicle on a train track full speed towards a wall. How about you wait until I'm ready with the laser, guy?
Not ready. He's just going. He can't wait another second. His vehicle goes forward. His laser shoots into the wall. It half works. He gets his torso and head stuck into this other dimension. They are able to pull him out, but when they pull him out, he's gone insane.
Rabid.
He's gone crazy.
He's feral.
And so now this is why he's in this mental institution, and he is not a fan of Buckaroo Banzai, as you can imagine.
Yeah. He didn't seem like he had a good head on his shoulders before the wall. After he leaves the wall, going into the 8th dimension, he is just batshit crazy. He's in this insane asylum. He lives dirty. He lives chaotic. And he hates Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers because they're on the television getting interviewed about their groundbreaking scientific work of going through physical matter and going into a different dimension. And he is just loathing these guys through the TV screen. And Nick, I was going to say top tier facial recognition coming in hot, but I think you clocked our guy as well. Who do we have blessing the screen as part of this stacked cast?
We have, as one of the caretakers at this mental asylum, we have Jonathan Banks, a.k.a. Mike Ehrmantraut.
Oh, yeah.
From Breaking Bad.
Now, did you recognize him right away just because he has such a signature face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second I saw it, I go, that's Mike. That's Mike.
It reminds me of when we found Giancarlo Esposito in Maximum Overdrive.
Yes, it was very similar to that. So yeah, we have Jonathan Banks here. Again, stacked cast. At this time, they didn't know how stacked he would be.
No matter how small or big, this cast is stacked, dude. Before we can even comprehend the chaos that is Dr. Lizardo, we're going to a rock show with Buckaroo and the boys, the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Buckaroo is a surgeon. He's a rocket scientist. He just went through a goddamn mountain, and now he's going to shred on guitar alongside his boys at this super 80s nightclub filled with tons of extras, background, 1980s style repetitive dance moves going on.
A lot of whites doing that 80 head bopping dance move.
Not a lot of half whites, half Japanese people out there. All whites.
All whites. And it's one of those scenes where Buckaroo walks in and everybody goes, he's here. They just hand him a guitar and he jumps on stage and just starts instantly laying down a face melting solo.
What can't this guy do? A part of Buckaroo Banzai's skill set, he also apparently has spidey sense because they're in this noisy nightclub. He's playing face melters and all of a sudden he senses something's off and stops the show. He has command of the room and says, yo, is someone out there not having a good time? And I thought it was a rhetorical question, like when bands, comedians, they get on stage and they say, how are we all doing?
Bad.
Someone is doing bad. And it's this girl named Penny. She is crying in the crowd. Buckaroo says, is someone crying? And I like this because they're in this wide shot of the crowd reaction. Penny is in the shot and you kind of need to have a keen eye on the situation. And it's one of those things where it comes into light when the movie wants you to recognize it. And there's this woman named Penny. She's crying. And what is she crying about? Just that she's down on her luck? She's sad? Nobody cares about her?
No clue, James.
No clue, no answers. That's all we got. But Buckaroo Banzai singles out this lady and says, I'm going to sing you a ballad and I'm going to make you feel better and make you feel seen. And Penny takes this opportunity to take out a handgun and slowly raise it towards her own head.
Was it just me, or did you think during the ballad they really should have done some voiceover work on the singing? Because
I thought the same.
Peter Weller's voice was not great.
It's not great.
I was like, Buckaroo.
It just speaks volumes of how much people don't care. And they just think whatever Buckaroo Banzai does is God tier. And it's what I want to hear. We're just in Buckaroo Banzai's world.
We're all just living in it.
So she has this handgun up to her head and a waiter bumps into her and then she muffs her shot of her apparent, I guess she was going to commit suicide in this
She's going to kill herself in front of Buckaroo Banzai.
It was going to be really dark. Bumps her arm. She shoots around into the ceiling and Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers stay strapped because everybody pulls out a gun. Somebody pulls out an Uzi. They're pulling out pistols. They're gangster, dude. Like, they're smart. They're cool.
And they'll kill you.
And they'll fucking kill you.
They're ride or die homies, dude. Gunshot goes off and they just drop the instruments and they all just whip one out. We switch back to the mental asylum and Lizardo has been telling our doctor, Mr. Jonathan Banks, for a long time, he's going to get out. He's going to get out. He walks up to him while Jonathan Banks is sitting at his desk. I'm surprised by how much freedom these mental patients have to just be able to assault. There's like 50 mental patients out here on this floor, and there's one guard.
And there's just Mike.
And there's just Mike Ehrmantraut. Now, if he was today's Mike Ehrmantraut, no issues. However, 1984 Jonathan Banks gets absolutely destroyed by Lizardo, who has super strength, because he grabs his neck and lifts him up against a wall.
And then twists and snaps his neck with one hand.
Left hand. I don't know if John Lithgow's a lefty.
How strong is this guy? We'll come to learn some more information about Dr. Lizardo. But apparently right after this, he does make a call to Mr. John Bigboote. And at this moment, I'm thinking, okay, this movie is not taking itself seriously. This is a legit comedy. And after this, we don't see this, but off screen, he steals a Maserati Bora and totals it a block away. This guy is my spirit animal.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Big fan of Lizardo.
Lizardo is about chaos, and I'm about it.
So jumping back to Buckaroo, he's very interested in this Penny character, the gal who tried to shoot herself in the nightclub, because she reminds him of somebody. So he goes to visit her in this prison cell and he talks to her about where she's born. She's never told anybody. We put together pretty quickly. She's the adopted twin sister of someone he used to love.
Yeah. Her name is Penny. Buckaroo's ex-wife, who is super dead, is named Peggy. And he actually calls her Peggy in the nightclub. He says, "What's your name?" And she says, "Penny." And he says, "Peggy?" And then Penny's like, "Whatever."
When a girl's having a tough night, call her the wrong name. That's what I do.
Top tier advice.
He decides in this prison, he looks at the guards and says, "Let her out." And they go, "Okay." Because this is Buckaroo Banzai. And if Buckaroo Banzai says something, this is just going to happen.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was because he said it or if because he posted her bail, but basically Buckaroo Banzai can get anything done. And at this point, he actually does. I'm not sure why. Again, a lot of questions, not a lot of answers. You got to take this movie for what it is. He does request that Sydney, a.k.a. Jeff Goldblum, join his crew. He's like, "I need another person in my crew. Can you play an instrument?" And Jeff Goldblum is dressed up as a cowboy, and he meets up with Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers outside of the jail where Penny is being held. But he meets up with Jeff Goldblum and he says, "All right, you're going to join my crew." And everybody knows Buckaroo Banzai. Everybody knows the Hong Kong Cavaliers. But I did find it funny that Jeff Goldblum, who they end up calling him New Jersey because everybody needs a sick nickname, He doesn't know the names of the Hong Kong boys. He's kind of oblivious, whereas everybody else in this world knows what Buckaroo Banzai is all about.
Yes. So we're going to jump next to a press conference. So after he has basically traveled through a rock, he's going to hold a press conference about this.
To go off of him recruiting Sydney and bailing out Penny, he is, as I like to say, really yellow brick roading this situation. We are grabbing side characters and they are just part of the collective crew. And this collective crew meets where, Nick?
At this press conference. So Penny's at this press conference. Sydney, New Jersey, right? Sydney / New Jersey
with a microphone.
She's up there getting to answer questions
in a potential murder suspect.
Yeah.
And they're like, give her a microphone. Buckaroo said so.
And he's explaining how physical matter works, which I honestly don't think is very correct at all. He said the electrons hold this rock together, but in between it is just space. And in that space is where this other dimension lives. I don't
think they were concerned with actual science.
No.
I can't disprove that. But I don't. I'm not gonna take a movie that has a character name of John Bigboote and give them the credit that they did their due diligence of scientific research.
Yes. However, during this press conference is when shit is gonna hit the fan. So Buckaroo has to leave the press conference because he gets a call from the president,
allegedly,
quote unquote. As he goes to take this call, he gets a electrical shock from the phone to his head. Now, this electrical shock, what it's going to do, James, I'm going to set this up, then I'm going to let you just run rampant here. What this electrical shock allows him to do is be able to see aliens. So aliens are among us in this movie, but we can't see them. We'll learn why later. But this shock allows him to see aliens. And then, James, take it away for what happens next. This is the 30-minute mark of the movie, and this is where it starts to roll.
So you thought this movie was going fast and furious off the rip. Buckle up, Buckaroo, because it's about to get fuckled up, Fuckaroo. It is absolute chaos. We're at this press conference. Buckaroo is explaining how he can travel through matter. He gets a call from the alleged president, and then he picks up the phone. He gets electrocuted through the phone, and then he just gets enlightened and says, conference room, and we have to go to the conference room. He has been cool, calm, and collective, as cool as a goddamn coldest cucumber in the refrigerator up until this point, and then he just loses his shit. He is a smart man. He is now 4-dimensional intelligence flowing through his brains. The electrons and protons and neutrons and all the space in between is popping the hell off.
All the trons.
At this point in the movie, I knew I was in for a hysterical time because he points at these two guys, and they did feature these two guys, these two actors, a couple character actors here. One of them being Vincent Schiafelli and Dan Hedaya. So they make it a point to feature these guys, and Buckaroo Banzai comes in. He points at these guys and says,
There they are. Don't you see them? What do you mean? Who?
Evil! Pure and simple from the 8th dimension! Grab him!
And there's this insane zoom shot on Peter Weller, and then this pull focus zoom shot on these aliens, and they look absolutely ridiculous and low budget.
Honestly, I did not hate the alien look. I didn't hate it. For the 80s, I was into it.
It was jarring. He says there's aliens hiding in plain sight. The aliens in the conference room look hella goofy on this pull focus shot. He starts sprinting after the aliens. Then all of a sudden, Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown, comes out from behind a curtain and grabs Professor Nikita at gunpoint, shoots Jeff Goldblum, and then Penny grabs the overthruster, conceals it. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? The thought that came to my mind was, is this how Alex Jones thinks things happen? Like, this is reality. Like, there's aliens among us. They're living in the 8th dimension.
When you say shit hits the fan, shit really does hit the fan. There's a chase scene, so now Buckaroo's going to have to chase down the aliens. James, what happens during this? I see you call this out.
They drop a hint during this press conference, they say, well, we got to get out of here because there's a motorcycle convention coming in right after us. So what does Buckaroo Banzai do? He steals a motorcycle and someone says, hey, you can't do that. And then at minute 36, someone says, it's Buckaroo Banzai. And I lost my shit during this whole couple minutes of movie magic. I was enamored. I was taken aback. I was in it. Everybody knows Buckaroo Banzai, and he is on a mission to save reality.
So we get some more aliens. We have 2 hunters. They're out hunting, and an alien ship comes flying by. They shoot at it. The CGI of this alien ship flying through the air, hilarious.
I compared it to Cruel. It's very Cruel level of visual effects.
Very cruelish. They chase down this alien ball. Now, this part gets a little problematic for me. So the aliens, if you're not enlightened like Buckaroo Banzai, the aliens appear as human. So they're looking at this space ball.
The pod.
And out of the top comes a black guy with dreads. And the one hunter looks at the other one and goes, shoot it. I'm like, you don't know this is an alien. You think it's just a black guy. Like,
this is starting the questionable racism in the movie.
We'll come to learn they know who Buckaroo Banzai is. They have his comic books. We also come to learn that there's different races of aliens. There's the red lectroids and the black lectroids. The black lectroids present as African Americans.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite the choice.
It's wild.
So it was funny. But we have our enlightened Buckaroo. The lectroids, those are our aliens. They're called lectroids from our other dimension. They have kidnapped Hikita. And so we got to go on a rescue mission to go get Professor Hikita. Buckaroo breaks in, he follows them, find out where they're hiding Hikita, and rescues him. And then he says, I was given this formula after he got shocked by the telephone. He goes, I need you to take this and figure out this equation. And Hikita goes, give it to me.
Well, the way he gives it to him is he licks his palm, just as a wet willy version of just slapping his licked palm onto his forehead.
It's like a peel and stick tattoo.
Yeah. He brands the formula onto Hikita's forehead, which is a little bit counterproductive, because you'd have to look at it in a mirror and then you're looking at it backwards. So he's just giving Hikita more hurdles he doesn't need.
I don't think we ever solved this equation during the course of the movie either, if I remember correctly.
I don't know what it was for.
I don't know
either. Because it's an antidote, it's a formula, and he gives it to him. I think he gives it to him in the van because Hikita got kidnapped by Christopher Lloyd, and then Christopher Lloyd and his 2 weirdos join up at the pod crash site.
Yes.
Of the black lectroids, and Peter Weller sneaks into the van, and then he transfers the formula to Hikita and then dips out of there because, of course, one of the aliens says, hey, it's Buckaroo Banzai. So even the aliens know who Buckaroo Banzai is.
Buckaroo Banzai. There is a bit of an escape sequence. These aliens are really funny, but at one point there is a nut shot, and I wrote down that aliens confirmed have dicks.
And balls.
Dick and balls.
Because the balls is really where it
gets it. Yeah.
If you take a dick shot, it is kind of I feel like dick shots kind of sting, but ball shots debilitate.
Those have you down and out. Yeah.
Buckaroo gets out of this sticky situation because he has this fan club. I believe they're called the Blue Blaze Irregulars. It's this entire cult following of the Buckaroo Banzai celebrity persona, his fame. He has an entire it's basically like his Swifties.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He has his own fan club that would do anything for him. So this little cute kid who's maybe 10, 11 years old.
Yes.
I don't know what he's doing. Is this summer? Is this a school year? Is this what he does after school? He is just he's on a 2-way radio. He's waiting for a distress call from Team Banzai. Hears that Buckaroo Banzai is in trouble at this location, runs out of the store and says, Dad, Buckaroo Banzai needs our help. What does the dad do for a hobby or his occupation? He's a helicopter pilot. So they fly a helicopter in, do a rope ladder drop, and pick up Buckaroo Banzai, our hero, and gets him out of that sticky alien situation. No problem. Lickety split.
Don't ask questions. Don't worry about it. So we're back. we get back to our home base, and this is the Bonsai Institute. And
It's
we're
like the
back
Buckaroo house, the Buck house, the Bonsai house. It has a name. Everything Buckaroo Banzai does is branded, and it's a thing.
He's a master at branding. We get back with the crew, and the crew has made some discoveries. We find out the origin of the aliens, how long they've been around us, because they find all these irregular SSNs that all popped up in 1938 in New Jersey, and they all have the first name of John. Now, this is going to become a running bit that every alien's name is John. So we have these thousands of SSNs, and then we find out this is related to Orson Welles' War of the Worlds.
They made a real life tie-in to historical events, and Jeff Goldblum, playing New Jersey, says that the aliens did in fact invade Earth in 1938 via the eighth dimension. And the whole War of the Worlds Halloween episode of his radio show was in fact supposed to be a true distress call to the citizens of Earth. However, the aliens hypnotized Orson Welles to convince him to say, oh, it was all fictional. They have the power to manipulate Orson Welles to convince Earth that it was not real. So they were covering up their real life tracks. But apparently in this movie, aliens did invade Earth in 1938. And Orson Welles, coincidentally enough, on his fictional radio show, was trying to warn everybody.
Now they have some sort of communication. This is from our boy John, our alien.
Which John?
And this is John Parker.
So John Parker, he's another black lectroid, aka an African American, except I think he was supposed to be Jamaican, technically.
I was just he was Caribbean of some sort.
Yeah, they call him the Rasta guy or something like that. He's trying to get in contact with Buckaroo Banzai with a message. And they have this kind of R2-D2 style Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope hologram message, which they need to view through some bubble wrap, saran wrap glasses. And we have this female figure who is also, from an Earth's perspective, African-American, or maybe, again, Caribbean, Jamaican. She is giving a message that John Worfen is part of the Red Lectroids, and he's the leader. He's like a Hitler figure of the Planet 10 aliens. He was overthrown by freedom fighters and peacemakers of Planet 10. And then him and his loyal followers were condemned to the formless void known as the eighth dimension. But unfortunately, our hero, our boy, our golden child of planet Earth, third rock from the sun, Buckaroo Banzai, opened up a rift in the dimensions and started stirring up shit eventually.
Well, actually, our first guy who did it was Dr. Lizardo when he got halfway through.
Yes, Dr. Lizardo did it first. And I have questions, shocker, about how his biology and his physiology works, because Dr. Lizardo was a real person, but it seems like he got possessed or body snatched by
definitely
Lectroid.
snatched.
Is it Dr. Lizardo or is it this guy, John Worfen?
I think it's Lord John Worfen. This is our big bad. Now, don't forget, our director, W.D. Richter, wrote Invasion of the Body
Snatchers. So
this is just old hat for him.
I made that connection too.
Yeah.
So I thought that was his kind of plan of attack and logistics for how this happened. But it was a little confusing because for John Parker, for example, who is played by Carl Lumbly, and I do want to actually shout this guy out. No top tier facial recognition, but when I looked this guy up on IMDb, I did recognize him right away. This is Isaiah Bradley via The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, one of the latest Marvel TV shows, who will make an appearance in Captain America 4. Recognizes full right away, unrecognizable with his hair locks, the facial hair, and his Caribbean Jamaican accent. But John Parker's human form, is that a projection that Earthlings see the Lectroids as, or did he steal someone's face like a scroll?
That is a wonderful question. I also don't know why they present the black lectroids present as black.
It's giving me
And
a very
Caribbean black.
much Blazing Saddles vibes of not controversial, but kind of raunchy with the racial comedy, but everybody's in on it. But it's a little bit questionable.
Yeah.
It is kind of like a, why are there black aliens and why are they showcased as black humans?
It's a great question. So something else that our messenger, I wrote down Voodoo Mama, tells us, because she reminds me of Calypso from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
And she looked like Gabrielle Union. I thought it was Gab Union, but it was
just
1984, so I'm like, it's not.
Timeline
it's not
doesn't work
her.
out.
Yeah.
She tells of grave dangers, Jack Sparrow.
She's also named John, by the way.
Yeah, they're all John. So she tells us that we have till sundown, or the black lectroids have no choice but to fire a weapon, I think, at Russia?
I think it was not fire a weapon, but they were going to pretend to or instigate World War III between the United States and the Soviet Union.
So yeah, that was on the table. So we have till sundown to solve this problem. Otherwise, World War III starts. But the aliens do come, and they are going to attack the Banzai Institute. And this is where shit hits the fan, part 2.
Even more.
Nikita gives Penny the overthruster, and then Penny is snatched. She gets taken. Not murdered, but kidnapped. We find out the black lectroids are our homies because they do fight alongside us. John does. Our John.
Which John? Damn it.
Which
John Parker. You gotta use last names.
You're right. We do. He fights alongside us. Rawhide, unfortunately, murdered in the scuffle by some spider thing, some spider weapon thing. The red electroids get away. They steal our homeboy's helicopter. The one that originally saved Buckaroo was just
Casper Lindley. Is the character's name.
Was just parked outside of the Institute, and these red electroids were like, wow, that is convenient. There is a helicopter.
Let's steal this.
Buckaroo says to himself, we got to call the president. Do we know why the president is in an upside-down hospital bed? Was that ever explained to us? Okay.
No, we don't.
The president.
Can I say something about the president real quick?
Absolutely.
President is played by Ronald Lacey.
Yes, friend of the show.
AKA Toad from Raiders. Friend of the show,
Yes.
Unrecognizable, because he didn't have a German Nazi accent. And he was also strapped to a hospital bed that was on a rotating rotisserie hamster wheel where he can just face down to the ground or face it was
also in the room with the president, his national security advisor. That is Yakov Smirnov, a Russian comedian. So little shout out there. Now,
don't know that guy.
Yeah, as Buckaroo Banzai is explaining to the president what's going on, John Parker butts in. Buckaroo tells him, this is an alien. He's going to tell you what's going on.
He says, this is a black lectroid.
And John Parker says, we are going to have problems here in New Jersey. And the president just hits him with, what do you mean? Like a race war in New Jersey? It's like, where did that come from, Mr. President?
Using the term race war and black lectroid is wild. Someone else also says blacks are on this planet. And I'm like, are they talking about the lectroids? Or are they talking about the humans? Because we're about to have some problems. It's where I get hit with, are the lectroids racist? Are the aliens racist?
They appear to be racist. On Earth, in space, you can't get away from it, man. There's just prejudice, I guess.
Yeah.
There is a lot of weird overlap between our world and their world, like the way that they
speak English.
Things. They are illiterate, which is really funny to me. So they make signs and they do things that is just illiterate. It's a kind of a bit of a running gag, one of those other running gags throughout the movie. Now, we do find out that Buckaroo tells us, was it Buckaroo who explains why he can see the aliens? So the aliens emit some sort of space dust.
That was New Jersey. New Jersey said
that
they emit something, and the airborne, whatever, pathogens, electrons, so a scientific jargon, whatever we inhale, we are able to see what they want us to see. And so that's when I was thinking, okay, so are they not body snatching? And are we just all universally seeing John Parker as the same person? Does he look like Carl Lumbly to everybody else? or is it all subjective? And maybe we're in Buckaroo Banzai's point of view, and he sees him as Carl Lumbly, but someone else sees him as a different looking person.
Great question.
And then with that, I have questions about Lizardo, because it seems like he is possessed.
I think he's the only one who got snatched. I think he's the only one who ended up getting snatched.
Okay.
So now it's time that we gotta do a full-on assault mission on the Lectroids.
Heist time.
Buckaroo's going to lay out our plan for us. So he tells everybody what they're going to do. He goes, I'm going to go after Lizardo/Worfen. You guys are going to go get Penny. You're going to do this. Be careful of this. So he's like, all right, we're going to lay out the last 30 minutes of this film. Penny gets taken down to a sewer, and I guess they're going to murder her. By the way, nobody knows she has the overthruster yet. So all that Worfen wants is this overthruster so that he can open the dimensions and then take over the dimensions.
He wanted to be able to break out the rest of his racist homies from the 8th dimension.
That's right.
And make a race war in New Jersey.
And to that point, Worfen goes / Lizardo gives a very Hitler-y speech to his crew. Very like angry and loud and has some chanting. Buckaroo gets captured, I believe on purpose, but I couldn't quite tell.
Doesn't matter.
He's getting tortured by Lizardo, but the Hong Kong Cavaliers do save Penny. They do come through to save Buckaroo, and then we're going to ambush the rest of the Lectroids. We have some nice campy ambush music going on here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Michael Boedicker again. Comes through with this nice synth music for a takedown.
The Bo-Dickness.
So Worfen knows that he's beat and it's time to escape. He wanted Buckaroo's overthruster, didn't have it, so he's going to use his shitty overthruster that failed the first time that we saw in the flashback. And we're like, is this going to work? Obviously, it's not going to work.
46-year-old overthruster.
So he's in this vehicle, this spaceship. Buckaroo has jumped on board. So has homeboy John Parker, not John Carter.
John Carter.
And they're so they break out of the facility and they're flying over New Jersey. And Worfen knows that they're on board. They're in the escape pod section. So he's just going to release the escape pod, send them tumbling back down to Earth. But of course, Buckaroo knows how to fly this escape pod, this alien escape pod. And also this escape pod has an insane weapon system.
Yeah.
This is not an escape pod. This is an attack ship.
This is basically if the inflatable raft on a boat had a 50 caliber turret mounted to it.
It had a death laser, like a rail gun.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He kills Worfen in his main spaceship. And that's kind of just it for Worfen.
Worfen's dead.
So we're back on Earth, and we just kind of wrap up the movie.
Hold on. Don't gloss over the fact that Buckaroo Banzai ejects out of this escape pod via a parachute. Apparently,
that was in this
parachutes. Alien. They have Earth-rated parachutes, and we were hit with very kind of triumphant synth music as Buckaroo Banzai soars through the clouds on a parachute. He waves goodbye to John Parker and floats on down to Earth, is reunited with his boys, and then is checking up on Penny, wants to know how his twin sister of his super dead wife is doing. Jeff Goldblum as Sydney, aka New Jersey, says, I did all I could. She is underneath a death blanket. He opens the blanket up and does a Sleeping Beauty style kiss on her, and there's some electricity that transfers from his mouth to hers. And she is all of a sudden shocked and woken up. And then there is this whole other room of black electroids on super tall bar chairs and bar tables. So are these the high class diplomats of the black electroids, the peaceful electroids?
Those are the black electroids. They were going to make the decision on whether to escalate World War.
They're the ones that implemented the countdown.
Yeah, this is like the high.
So after Buckaroo Banzai,
person.
Sleeping Beauty's Penny, she wakes up and she's alive after being pronounced dead. And the black electroids, they transferred life into Penny basically through defibrillator tech, except heightened up to Planet 10 level. and she's back alive. And we end on one of the aliens saying, "So what? Big deal," or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the last line of the movie.
That's it. Yeah.
But before I say that's the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension, I can't ignore these credits.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole credit sequence, kind of like very Bollywood style when Bollywood movies end. Every character comes out in a dance number. Even the villain comes out. And they're just in this Los Angeles concrete river aqueduct, just walking in their signature costumes to some synthy beat music, and they're marching in beat. Everybody's coming out, and again, really culminating on the Yellow Brick Road phenomenon. Everybody who Buckaroo Banzai comes in contact with joins this speed walking jaunt down the LA River, and we're tickled. And that's the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension.
Whoa.
Directed by W.D. Richter.
Good old WD.
Do you have any nitpicks?
Nitpicks.
Yeah, quite a few. So there's a lot of filler dialogue of quote unquote sciencey things that don't make a lot of sense. So we have at the beginning sequence when Buckaroo is going to travel through rocks / make that land speed record. Somebody's asking, is the altimeter ready? The altimeter is something that's in an airplane to measure your altitude. So they're just throwing out words. There's a bunch of filler lines of background characters, or even the Hong Kong Cavaliers when they're talking to Buckaroo, saying things to the effect of the physical particulate matter here isn't. You're like, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what you're saying. I'm guessing that 80% of it is incorrect.
That's being generous.
And then also, every device that they have is what an 80s movie would think is a futuristic device. So it's a lot of boxy things with just blinking lights.
If the lights aren't blinking,
it's not working.
Is anything even happening?
There's one point where he busts out something and says, this is a homing beacon. And it looks like somebody just grabbed a motherboard out of a Game Boy and just gave it to him and said, use this as the homing beacon.
It looked like a cassette tape housing.
It looked like one of those clear cases that you hold baseball cards in, and someone just threw a random motherboard from a handheld game in there and said, here, this is a prop.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is from an old Texas Instrument. Enjoy.
Yeah, I want to bring up a nitpick here. It's really the whole shtick of the movie. It's that the fact that they just gloss over things. 90% of things, if not everything, is supposed to be just accepted from the audience. And we've given crap for movies for doing that. I do give a pass for this movie because they do it consistently. Every single thing gets glossed over, and it's almost like we are just jumping into the middle of the story. This is chapter 117 out of 3,000. We're bowing down to the story. The story doesn't owe anything to us. We owe our benefit of the doubt to the story. But one of the things that they gloss over is, how does John Worfen, aka Dr. Lizardo, rescue the rest of the hidden in plain sight racist John aliens that got all those social security numbers? And they're part of that plant that is building the giant ship device to bust through the eighth dimension to get the rest of them out of there. They don't explain that.
Yep, that is a plot hole. That is a nitpick.
Yeah.
Or why wasn't this a Social Security Administration have a red flag go up and go, whoa, what just happened here?
Another thing to go on topic of that is the human projections. How do they work? So are the electroids projecting an image of a human form, or are they body snatching? Because John Lithgow's Dr. Lizardo looks the same as Dr. Lizardo, except he is possessed as the John Worfen, the Hitler of the electroids.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because I think what would have been really fun is if at the end, when Buckaroo's enlightened and could see the aliens, maybe Lizardo was an alien. He got replaced and he was just projected as Lizardo. That would have been a really good twist. But no, he just seems to be the only one who had his body snatched, mind corrupted, possessed. He was the only one.
He is the only Lectroid who doesn't have a Lectroid form in the movie for the audience.
Maybe that's why
So
he's the Lord. Maybe that's why he's Lord John Warfin. Maybe that's why he's the most dangerous one. I don't know.
It makes sense because half of his body got thrusted into the 8th dimension and all these humanoid aliens were attacking him. So something got all fuckaroo up in there. And the consciousness of John Warfin transmitted into Dr. Lizardo, and he is the supreme being that he is a red Lectroid, but he has the privilege of being a daywalker, being the human among humans.
So what happened? Did Lizardo's body go through the dimension? His head popped out somewhere on planet 10, and the red Lectroids just saw him and just like, get him, and just beat the shit out of him or something?
Yeah, the 8th dimension's a little... How big is the 8th dimension? Is it the size of a 20 by 20 room? And all of a sudden some human's head comes in through one of the 4 walls and they're like, kick this guy's ass. Why? What? How? Who cares, Nick?
I'm done asking questions here. Let's get ourselves over to our talking points, James. And I have one that I'd like to bring up here. So I was watching this movie and I wanted to talk to you about the effects, because something we love is the special effects, the visual effects of these 80s movies, even 90s movies, and seeing how they hold up. I really didn't mind the practical aliens that much. I thought they looked just fine for 80s aliens. And did they look silly compared to what we see today? Sure. But if I just take them at face value of 80s aliens, of practical effects, I thought they looked pretty damn good.
My only critique of the practical alien costumes is the arm gloves. If they would articulate their wrists, like twist their hand and their forearm was in the other direction, you could clearly see the twisting ripple effect from the rubber glove that they were wearing. Yeah, it was pretty cheesy looking, but
I was thinking neck up. I thought it was
totally fine. The composites, whatever technology, green screen, computer compositing was a little rough, very cruel like with the spaceships, but nothing really terrible. So you can think about that for the budget when you take a stab at it.
Yeah. Another talking point I had, we discussed it in plot talk. I just want to get our final thoughts on it.
We need to spell this out. We need to bring attention to this. Unlike this movie, we are not going to gloss over this. We need to talk about it.
So we have the black Lectroids, and you think that'd just be a name, right? The red Lectroids, the black Lectroids, same way you have
Mamba.
A black Mamba, a black moon,
Rising.
Just a name, right? A black hole, all these things you think, it's just a name, a planet, a dimension, the black dimension. No, these actually just manifest as black people.
This is another clear indicator that this is satire.
It has to be.
This is raunchy comedy.
Yes, and they all were Caribbean.
Yeah.
So do these black lectures. So when you have this special space dust, when you have the special space dust that allows you to make humans see you as they want to, is it the choice of the person projecting that space dust? So do these black Lectroids want to be seen as African Americans, or
that goes back to my question of, is this just Buckaroo Banzai's point of view, because he is the only human who can see these Lectroids for who they truly are until everybody gets the breathing apparatus vest.
Right. Also, the president sees him on a screen, so he's not breathing in the dust, but he still sees John Parker as a human John Parker. So that's weird.
Again, that could be a total subjective. This is all through a Buckaroo Banzai lens, and John Parker just looks like Carl Lumbly.
I think everybody sees them the same. So the Lectroid projects the image they want. And maybe the black Lectroids got a taste of some reggae music. And they thought, these guys are really fucking cool. And I want everybody to see me like this. I want everybody to see me as a Jamaican. The John Parker part, I was like, okay, like just a black actor, totally fine. And then the second black Lectroid we see is the woman
who dies. Well, no, there's an initial one that dies, and I thought I thought that was a John Parker duplicate, but when I rewound it's a different actor. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, then we see 3 of them, and all the black Lectroids are black, and I thought that's okay,
questionable. Yeah,
it's a choice.
Hopefully that it was a funny choice, because I see here you have a talking point about just your favorite comedy moments from this movie. It's littered with them. Hit me with your favorite comedy moments.
The comedic factor of this movie isn't what you'd expect out of a normal quote unquote comedy. There's no setup punchline. Like there's really no hitting you with the jokes. It's a lot of running gags and it's a lot of situational humor, which I appreciate because, like I was saying before, it does make you question, was that a purposeful joke? And then you keep watching the movie, you go, yes, it was. So everybody being named John is really funny because it's all confusing. Like I said, the Lectroids being illiterate. Christopher Lloyd's character is John Bigboote, and everybody calls him Big Booty, and he keeps correcting them. It's Bigboote.
And speaking of big booty, for me, what had me almost on the floor was Big Booty's double punch, just stiff arming some humans. He just,
Yes.
it's not a natural wind up haymaker punch. He just sticks his arm straight out and knocks out a human, and then sticks his other arm straight out and knocks out a different human. All the band members just stand strapped. Just the whole idea, the concept of Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers, they're just god tier humans. They're personal heroes. They are scientists, rock stars. Another funny thing I thought was just when anyone in the movie said Buckaroo Banzai, everybody was name dropping
Buckaroo Banzai.
a la Parks and Rec. First name, last name, Ron Swanson, Leslie Knope, Tom Haverford, Shauna Malwae-Tweep, just Jeremy Jam. When like Buckaroo Banzai does something and they're like, that's Buckaroo Banzai, the alien says, hey, it's Buckaroo Banzai. And then some other government official says, well, if it wasn't Buckaroo Banzai saying it, I'd have that guy committed. It's just the running gag of everybody knowing this guy by first and last name. And he is basically a government official. He's a diplomat. He has
full reign of the planet.
He has the key to the earth, and everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. And our final thing that had me on the ground was just the credit sequence. Everybody coming out in sequence, marching in the same direction in a very signature costume. I thought, what the hell is this movie? This movie also ends on a super promise that there's going to be a sequel, but we never got it.
Maybe that's why. Maybe because of the bomb at the box office.
It was because of the bomb, actually, because the rights to Buckaroo Banzai did fall to the production company, and since it went bankrupt, it got kind of lost in red tape hell, and they were never able to follow up on their promise of a sequel.
Gosh, you could have done a whole Fast and Furious franchise of Buckaroo Banzai. He could have just kept getting into
I was ready.
Crazy adventures.
I was ready for the sequel. The last talking point is the idea of the cult classic. So this movie, I think it might be the cultiest of the classics. This has a very niche following, but I do want to point out something. This is from RogerEbert.com. It's an article on Buckaroo Banzai by Peter Sobzinski, and he is quoted realizing early on that trying to sell the film to mainstream audiences at first might not be a wise idea. So 20th Century Fox decided to promote it at sci-fi conventions in the months leading up to its release by stressing that it was a cult movie in the making. Unfortunately, this approach wound up backfiring as the sci-fi audience was understandably wary of anything announcing itself as a cult movie before anyone had actually seen it. In their eyes, a cult movie is one that is discovered and nurtured by a loyal audience, not one that arrives in theaters proclaiming itself as such right from the get-go. I found that interesting because I totally agree with that sentiment. Cult classics are crowd promoted. When a movie comes out, it bombs, it flops. There's a certain niche audience that loves it, that keeps its heartbeat going, it revives it, and then it has a whole new afterlife decades after the fact.
It's like the friend who gives himself his own nickname. You can't give yourself your own nickname.
Yeah.
Somebody else has to crown you with that nickname.
So with Fox's plan of attack of selling this as a cult classic, I would think that's a death sentence for this ever becoming a cult classic, but ultimately it did become a cult classic. What's your take on that? What's your reaction to that whole phenomenon?
Here's how I'd probably say it. If they didn't market it as a cult classic, it probably would have succeeded at the box office. It would not have become a cult classic, but it would have become a successful movie as a comedy. Because cult classics are usually bad, right? That's what we think about cult classics. They're bad, but they have a following because a subgroup of people really liked it. So when I hear cult classic, the first thing I think of is bad movie. This was not a bad movie. But when you gave it the cult classic moniker, you told everybody it's a bad movie, it's cheesy, but you might like it anyway. That's not going to get me out to the theaters. By calling it a cult classic, you did manifest its cult classic tag, but you also gave it cult classic performance, which is really bad at the box office. So it's a terrible strategy. It's an awful strategy. It would have become not a cult classic. It would have become just a classic. Which, if I'm a production company, I'd prefer having a successful classic on my hands as opposed to a bombing cult classic. So, really dumb strategy.
And talking about the strategy, it was a very interesting strategy to go the sci-fi convention route. And this ended up having Buckaroo Banzai delaying its release because it was originally supposed to go for a wide release on June 8th, 1984, which would have been pitted right against Ghostbusters and Gremlins. And I'm sure Temple of Doom would have been still in theaters at this point. So it got bumped at the last minute to a much reduced opening in a few cities around mid-August. And then over the next couple of months, it opened to a few more cities before finally disappearing from theaters altogether. So you can see why this bombed. The strategy was so bold from Fox that it completely backfired for the box office return, which is why we have a bomb on our hands.
Just terrible miscalculation.
Now, with all that evidence, talking about the plot, talking about what happened in this movie, talking about Fox's strategy, Nick, audience, it is now time for you to take a stab, take a guess at what the actual budget was. The Buckaroo budget Banzai box office bombastic performance. Can you give me a number? Can you walk me through, as math teachers say, show me your work. Tell me what you think the budget was and why.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some previous movies that we've done.
Totally fine.
And I'm going to try to use that as a barometer. So 1984's Temple of Doom was 28 million. 1983's War Games was 12 million. I might put this more towards the War Games category. I don't think it had the juice of Temple of Doom at the 28. So
because that, keep in mind, that is a Raiders sequel, and
right,
Raiders had an $18 million budget and then it almost got $400 million at the box office.
Yeah, War Games at 12. We had a lot more practical effects. So I'm going to bump it up to 16.5.
All right.
And then Return 1984 style Return. I don't think we've had many bombs from the 80s that we've been able to compare much to. So if I went 16.5, half of that would be 8, a little over 8. So we'd have to go 40%. So we'd have to go with like 6, 5. How bad? 3, 2, 2.5. I mean, we're talking bomb. We're talking cult classic bomb. We're talking I never watched this growing up type of bomb. You know, that's a bomb. That didn't get played in the Justice House. So I'm going to go low here, man. I'm going to go 2.5. I'm going, this was a bomb, thanks to that terrible strategy by Fox.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
Audience, are you locked in? Are you ready for the results? The corn dog himself, Nicholas DeGicolis, Nick Jerry Justice, my guy, you nailed it on the budget.
No way.
Cruel rule coming into effect here. I do have multiple different reported budgets, one being 12 million, the other being closer to what your guess is. I'm going to go with the one that's closer to your guess.
Appreciate it.
Because the only thing I have is this, there's on the Wikipedia page for Buckaroo Banzai, there is this reference, this bookmark to something called The 20th Century Fox, A Corporate and Financial History by Aubrey Solomon from 1989, page 260. I'm not going to buy this guy's book so I can verify it. I'm just going to go for face value. This one clocked it in at $17 million. And you said 16.5. Pretty much right on the money, I'll say.
Okay. All right. Pretty proud of that.
However, your guess of 2.5 million at the box office is a little bit too ambitious. We are looking at a $6.2 million return.
I went low. Yeah, I really swung for the fences there.
You know what? Not a bad guess. Not a bad attempt. I think one of the better attempts of guessing what the budget is. So bravo, my friend.
Thank you.
Now, with that out of the way, let's get into our award section. The mini pops, our poppies, our cornies, our goods, our bads of Buckaroo Banzai Bonanza-ness. Nick, what do you have for the best weapon in this movie?
I think I was really thinking, I've been really starting to think about our mini pops as the movie goes along. And I think it came at the end. It was that laser that shot out of the escape pod. That thing was vicious.
What would you call that? The escape pod railgun?
I said escape pod laser. That's where I went.
I mean, I was going to say the Electroids kind of have this weird weaponized physicality about them. They can spit projectiles and knock people off their feet. But I think that railgun just obliterating a giant spaceship kind of takes the cake. Well, speaking of getting violent and getting confrontational, do you have a best fighter in this movie?
Yeah, I was trying to think about this.
Let me throw some answers out there.
Give me your thoughts.
I was going to say the Electroids because they, like most aliens in Hollywood movies, they are always physically superior to us humans. So in this case, the Electroids can jump 12 feet in the air. John Bigboote spit something at some guy and it looked like he got tackled by a middle linebacker going full speed. His stiff arm double punches just incapacitate humans. So it seems like any of the Electroids could qualify here, but I don't want to ignore the legend, the man, the myth that is Buckaroo Banzai.
He does throw down.
Because he apparently could do no wrong.
He does throw down and ends up victorious in the end. So I'm going to give this to dealer's choice for you, James.
Oh, man.
Electroids or Buckaroo? Or a specific Electroid? Is it John Bigboote?
Just like a reality TV show that can't make up its mind and wants to make the viewers happy, I have no problem nominating both Buckaroo Banzai and John Bigboote as the deadliest warrior of Buckaroo Banzai.
I think if they had a fight to the death, they'd both be dead.
You got any standout pieces of shit?
Everyone had a motivation except for Penny. So Penny was going to go to the show of the most sought after celebrity on the face of the earth. And when he was going to sing her a ballad, she was going to off herself in front of him. That's pretty piece of shit behavior. Then she doesn't do anything. She just tags along, gets kidnapped, and gets rescued and dies and then gets shocked back to life. She didn't do anything. And again, it's the whole, I'm going to go to a show full of a crowded place with a bunch of people to see the show of the biggest rock star in the world. And I'm just going to...
biggest person.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and kill myself.
A very worthy nominee. The only one I'm going to throw up against Penny is John Warfin / Dr. Lizardo.
Mm-hmm.
Because John Warfin is, when you throw out the term Hitler, I'm going to be pretty convinced that they're a giant piece of shit. However, it is technically Dr. Lizardo's fault that this whole eighth dimension conflict started because of his negligence of jumping into the train car when it wasn't ready, projected himself into the wall, got himself body snatched, hence starting the War of the Worlds phenomenon in our reality and extracting other racist aliens into our reality, into our dimension, and started this whole nonsense BS conflict. So it's a little bit Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for me, It is Dr. Lizardo. It is John Warfin. It is these two beings being one complete giant piece of shit.
So I'm good to go with Lizardo. I'm not in on Warfin. He's just an evil guy, and he's living out his evil intentions. But as far as just a shitty thing to do, yeah, I'm down with Lizardo. He was going to ruin Hakita's years of work because he couldn't wait 2 more minutes to open up the damn portal correctly.
Just like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, just like Bruce Banner, just like Hulk. They are one and the same. They do have the same thoughts and festering regrets. And Dr. Lizardo, I know, is buried deep down in this John Warfin persona, and he is just loathing Buckaroo Banzai via John Warfin's physical control. But Dr. Lizardo, I know, is up in that brain. So Dr. Lizardo is our biggest piece of shit of Buckaroo Banzai.
I'm in. All right, James, next category up is our MVC of this movie, our most valuable character. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Jeff Goldblum because he is so different from every other Earthling. Everybody on Earth, everybody in America knows who Buckaroo Banzai is, knows what he's capable of, knows that he is this Jesus type figure. But New Jersey is ignorant to the fact that he's not going to put Buckaroo up on a pedestal. He's not going to put the Hong Kong Cavaliers up on a pedestal, but he does provide a lot of assistance along the way. He does explain to us how we're able to see Lectroids as they are. He's down for the cause. He is our avenue into this bonkers bonsai world. And he is also very charismatic. He's very funny. And he's Jeff Goldblum. I mean, what more can you say?
That's a great point.
Also, he wears a cowboy outfit and he looks great.
He does. He has the furry chaps.
Yeah, he wears chaps. He wears a red button up, a cowboy hat. He is actually technically the only Buckaroo in this movie, aka cowboy.
I like that.
Boom, baby. Who you got?
My MVC was going to be John Parker. I like the character. And he comes when he comes in and reveals himself to the crew, he assimilates, like you said, he gets yellow brick roaded, but he is ride or die. Who's the last guy in that escape pod with Buckaroo Banzai?
John Parker.
It's John Parker. He's ready to go to town. He hates these red Lectroids as much as the next guy. He says, I'm here. I'm part of the mission. I'm going to let you guys know what's going on. I'll talk to the president. I'll talk to your president. I don't care. I'm not some side character. I enter into the group and I become A1 homie. I like John Parker, but I like New Jersey as well.
A lot of chill dudes in this movie.
A lot of guys being dudes.
I do want to point out that's another bullet point of something that I found very funny was racist aliens.
Yeah.
Being racist. Because aliens are usually portrayed as a unified species and they understand. They're like, we're going to take over Earth for our entire race of people. But this movie just makes a very fun political commentary of how stupid racism is.
Yeah, and how
y'all look
everybody falls victim.
Exactly the same. Yeah,
like you're the same alien. It's like, yeah, but they're black and we're not. It's like,
and we're red.
Got it.
Yeah, it's like okay, cool. Okay, let's get into the worst scene in this movie. Nick, we're going worst first before we go best scene. Do you have a worst scene in this movie?
I'm trying to rack my brain. As we were going through plot talk, I was really trying to get something that I thought would be the worst, like really standout shitty scene. And
this movie comes at you so fast and furious. You don't have time to formulate an opinion in the moment. I'm going to throw out a couple if you need some help here.
Yeah, let me throw out mine, and then I'm really interested to see what you got. I didn't like the jail scene with Penny after she gets arrested at the club. I didn't really get her character introduction in general.
For me, I'm going to kind of match that energy. Mine also does involve a scene with Buckaroo Banzai and Penny, and it's actually the scene where he does reveal that he was married to her twin sister. And it's at the Buckaroo Banzai clubhouse, the safe house, the compound, whatever the hell it is.
Fantasy Factory.
We hit another slow point in the movie where she says, "Why did you save me?" And then he says, "I think you look like my ex-wife. You must be her twin sister. And that's why I'm connected to you." We never confirm if it is a twin situation. It's really just a theory. And it's one of the many things that is glossed over, but it does kind of irk me a little bit more because it seems like they're putting more significance on this relationship.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I think the movie works if you didn't have Penny in the movie.
And I have a question about Penny. So speaking about body snatching, was Peggy a real person? And then no, Penny can't be Electroid because Buckaroo would be able to see her as Electroid form. So it's confusing.
That'd be a great plot twist if his wife was still alive and he didn't know it. They like erase her memory or something.
Oh yeah, no. Actually, that's correct because Warfin does look like John Lithgow, so maybe Penny is Electroid who body snatched Peggy. Peggy's not actually dead.
See, we needed a sequel.
Oh, and speaking of a sequel, when I dropped a hint in last time's episode, when we were talking about Solo, when I said the Zahn sisters were a hint of a character from this movie, so there's this whole evil villain named Hanoi Zahn, and he's the one who actually murdered Buckaroo's parents and was trying to foil Dr. Hakida's plan of trying to get into the 8th dimension, but all of that was scrapped. Jamie Lee Curtis actually played Buckaroo's mom in the deleted scenes, and they had to wipe all of the mentions of Dr. Zahn. So that was the connection to our last episode of Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Wow, interesting.
So Dr. Zahn was supposed to be the leader of the World Crime League, which was in the title of the promised sequel. It said, join us next time in Buckaroo Banzai against the World Crime League. So we got robbed.
Damn you, studios. All right, James, we did the worst. Now give me your best scene from this movie.
Best scene, easily the conference room scene. When shit hit the fan. I already was in it. I already was down with the camp. I was down with the 80s. I was ready to go on this crazy ride. And then the conference room scene was just hitting the nos for me. I thought I was going 100 miles an hour, and then you just hit the button and we go full speed straight ahead into the 8th dimension. I thought, holy shit, I am into this. Let's go, baby. Nick, you're giving me fist pumps. You're giving me thumbs up. I can only assume that this is your best scene of the movie as well.
It's the only option for the best scene of this movie. And it never, sans a few scenes here and there, it never stopped. It just stayed ridiculous. It was like a roller coaster. It was slowly kind of inching you up the incline. And then it hits the top and it's a straight down drop. And it's just loop-de-loops for hours.
Nick, during this bonkers ride, can you even hit me with a sarcastic selling point?
Yeah, my sarcastic selling point for this is Hitchhiker's Guide to Black Moon Rising. That's the best I got for you.
This movie is very indescribable. It is very genre bending. It's too many genres mashed up into one. So my wife actually nailed it on the head. When we watched the credit sequence, she said, wow, this looks like a 80s music video. And then she also said, this reminds me of Anchorman when they're all coming up to fight. Like all the news crews are coming up to fight. And I was like, oh my, yes, that's what it reminds me of. So I said, it's Anchorman personas in a sci-fi comedy. I couldn't find a comparable movie otherwise, but Buckaroo Banzai,
it's actually really good,
is Ron Burgundy, and his Hong Kong Cavaliers are the Channel 4 news team. Champ Kine, Brick Tamblyn, Brian Fantana. That is it. They all wear suits. They show up. They fuck shit up, and that is their MO.
I love that.
Final review. Fight.
And with that, let's get into our final review. Let's see what the other guys are saying about the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension. We're going to start out with Rotten Tomatoes. Our critics, 66% of the critics gave this 3 stars out of 5.
A little surprising for me for the critics to give a movie like this the 66er, but I can't wait to get to the people score because the people gave this a 69%.
Oh yeah, baby. That's a fresh tomato and a stand-up bucket of popcorn. So way to go, Buckaroo.
I would not have guessed this to be fresh.
We're going to up the ante going over to Metacritic. Our critic score is going to be 70, which translates to a 7.0 on our scale.
But the people of Metacritic give this a 6.4.
And now our science-bending, alien-friending, genre-blending, Buckaroo full-sending score by way of the eighth dimension from IMDb, 6.2. You're in the Earth dimension, I'm in the eighth dimension. Doesn't fucking matter. We're on the same page. We can't stop with this telepathic skill.
Won't stop.
And we're going to keep going with our final thoughts, our laughable log lines, our popcorn points. Nick, thank God I'm not going first, and it's you. Can you hit me with a laughable log line, followed by some popcorn points, and your final thoughts of this movie?
I'm happy I'm going first because I thought I might be stealing your popcorn points because I knew what this was the second I watched it.
Ooh.
My laughable log line is simply this: Buckaroo Banzai is him. And my popcorn points, James, I agree with the people of Rotten Tomatoes. This is the most deserving movie I've ever watched for the coveted 6.9. That's what this movie is for me. It is so... you know what? I could have even given it into the 7s, but it needs to have the 6.9. So this movie, there's not much to say. It's not deep. It doesn't have a greater meaning behind it. I'm really upset from what you told me about the naming it a cult classic before it had to be, because this movie deserves so much more recognition. This is about as fun of a watch as you're going to get. You don't know what's cheese, what's satire, what is just bad movie making, and it doesn't matter because it mixes it all together so well. The casting of characters is done perfectly. The character development is non-existent. It doesn't have to be there. It's just such a fun ride. And even the title gives it to you, right? The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. I mean, they swung for the fences, and this is a cult classic in the making. You just don't say it. You don't jinx it like that. Fox, if you haven't watched it, it's free on Tubi. Go watch it. Have the time of your life with this movie and just enjoy the ride. And don't think too much about it. Don't worry about the plot holes. Don't worry about the questionable comedy here or there. Just sit down and enjoy it, because this is a 6.9 all day, every day, 365 days a year. It's perfect.
I slow clap that because I'm going to have some pretty similar sentiments and echoes to that, because my laughable log line is Buckaroo Banzai and the Hong Kong Cavaliers are here to play rock and roll, break into the eighth dimension, and save the world from racist aliens. Nick, before you even said 6.9, I had to bust out a crazy dimension bending, breaking through the mountain wall blending score of a 6.969.
There's no other way.
And I invite you to join me on that same plane. If you want to alter your score to 6.969, I feel like if there's one movie that can pull off that score, it's Buckaroo Banzai, because like you said, he is him. And this movie is truly something else. Because let me tell you why. Can I just put on how fire 1984 was with movies?
Hit me.
The Terminator, Dune, The Never-Ending Story, Gremlins, Temple of Doom, Romancing the Stone, Ghostbusters, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, The Karate Kid, Beverly Hills Cop, Revenge of the Nerds, The Last Starfighter, 16 Candles, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Firestarter, Dreamscape. How much you can get lost in the sauce, and how much Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension stands out amongst all of those haymaker hit movies is wild to me. Was it a bold statement from Fox to say this is a cult classic before it becomes a cult classic? Absolutely. Did it end up panning out in the end? Yes. Hey, The Adventures of Pluto Nash. This is how you do The Adventures of So-and-so. Hey, The Fifth Element. This is how you do a ridiculous sci-fi movie. Hey, Black Moon Rising. This is how you do an 80s movie. This is everything I wanted out of the 80s. It is insane. It is bonkers. And my best scene of this movie really captures the essence of the 80s pop, cheesy cornball movie that I'm always on the search for. The bold statements, the performances, the stacked cast is well deserving on the upside of the so weird, it's good spectrum. Buckaroo Banzai, ladies and gentlemen.
James, does it sadden you to know that your life only goes down from here?
Yes. It absolutely does. And it's going to go downhill probably next week because we're going to be watching a movie that is going to be from my vault, my personal choice. If you recall from the Rap Party episode, I won the quiz portion. So my grand prize was picking a movie, and not even my co-host, the Corn Dog, knows what we're watching. But the only hints that you're going to get,
I have no idea.
The only hints that you are going to get is it's rated R. It's from 2005, categorized as an action crime. And at one point during its heyday, I considered it to be my favorite movie. Nick, just
are we watching Gone in 60 Seconds?
For funsies, can you just give me a stab, give me a guess at what you think it is?
2005. My guess would be Gone in 60 Seconds.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I think that was 2000 or 2001.
Oh, a little early. Whew. Movies released in 2005. So that would have been freshman year / 8th grade year. R-rated heyday. One of your favorite movies at the time. I don't know what came out in 2005.
Don't Google movies from 2005. Just guess.
I gave you a guess. Gone in 60 Seconds. I don't know.
Okay. Well, the only way you're going to find out is if you tune in next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, please follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Please follow us on X, aka Twitter, at Just Play It Pod. We're heading gone. And remember, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and kill myself.
How about you wait until I'm ready with the laser, guy?